So this is a continuation of the helmet and creating all the trims and the padding and other elements that makes this into a complete product. Eventually we'll make this into an assembly as well. So this is a trim, a projected trim, and a projection that is basically perpendicular to the surface. And the way I got that, let me just show you the sketch, the 3D sketch that created that. So if I look at my 3D sketch and I go to edit that, let me turn off my planes. So we just see the sketches. And so this is a 3D sketch. And in this case, you know, in getting perpendicular lines that are perpendicular to the surface, like anywhere on this surface, it's always good to go with the 3D sketch because you're not confined by a plane, right? It could be, you know, it can be anywhere in space. So the important thing here is to have the appropriate constraints so that you can control where that line is going and what direction it's going. So in this case, what I did was I started a construction line, a center line, selected that tool. And again, I'm in the 3D sketch. And first click is on the origin. So it starts off in the center. And then the next one, you can click out here, and sometimes what it'll do is it'll go on surface, sometimes it won't. So usually I just click first and then add the constraint after the fact, because once you start to pivot, you can see that I didn't really get close to the surface, right? It's sort of kind of an illusion. That's why you have to be careful with 3D sketches. So what I'll do in this case is select the end of this construction line and select the surface, and you'll see kind of a new relation pop up here. This one's called on surface. So by clicking on this, it'll make the end of this 3D curve or 3D element entity reside on the surface. I'm going to click on that. It goes to the closest point of that surface, but then you can go in and just move it around to others. So now you know that there is a you know, perpendicular line off from that surface. Right, so you just move that point around to where you need, let's say, a vent point, maybe, or whatever it might be. Maybe it's a hole. Anything you want to project perpendicular to the surface. That's where you would put that. Put that sketch, or that entity. And then once you have that, you can see that, you know, it's in 3D there. It's perpendicular to that surface. Well, actually, it's on that surface. It's not really. It's very close to perpendicular, but I'll show you another way of doing an actual perpendicular line from that surface. It's just another relation you have to add. Right now, it's going to the origin, which may or may not be perpendicular to the surface. But the important thing here is that we have this reference. So I'm going to go to Features. I'm going to start a new plane. And I'm going to select this construction line as the first reference. The second reference is going to be the endpoint so that it knows where to place it. So now I have a plane, you know, right on that surface that is perpendicular to that. And that way you don't have these weird distortions when you're projecting stuff or anything. And this will work like with ventilation holes, or, you know, anything that you want to put in that sense. So once you have your plane there, then you can sketch on that plane. You can right click, start a new sketch. I'm going to start, let's say I'll just start a hexagon here. And say okay, and then you can just use that as a trim. Because this is a surface, I can then trim that surface. Let's say I want to remove what's in there. And there you go, there's my trim. Okay. So that's a way to get you know, some kind of a perpendicular line from a surface and put a plane on the end of that line, put a sketch on that plane, and then trim it out. Because if I were to draw that hexagon on the side view, it'll look right in this area, but as soon as you start going to the sides here, it'll really stretch that out, right? I mean, you may not want that stretching effect. And as always, you can also, just rotate your model to the, to kind of the location of where you want that design or whatever it may be. Go to your reference plane, start a new one, select any vertex. In this case, I'll do that. And then select create a plane parallel to the screen. So now there's a plane parallel to where I'm looking at. So there, I don't even have to make necessarily a line first. So that's another way of doing that. And then you can make make a new sketch on that. I'm going to go normal to the plane that I have selected now, and I'll go back to that view. And then I can go in and draw something out. Project that, trim it out, and now that ellipse gets projected onto that. So there's a number of ways to get these trims out. Some are very a little bit more structured in that there's a plane first, and then something that is like these slots here. There's a plane at the end of this line, and then I created these slots on that to keep them very very straight, horizontal, geometric there. So I'm going to delete these. The other way to create kind of a perpendicular element to this surface, I'm going to start a new 3D sketch. I'm just going to click somewhere on that surface or close to it, and then just another click just to get a line out there. And then I'll add the geometry. So same thing as before, I'm going to select the end point. This time it's going to be the inside end of this construction line, and then that surface. It's going to go on that surface. All right, then I'm going to just go pretty much anywhere on that. And it's not perpendicular yet though. To get it perpendicular, I'm going to select the line itself, not the end point, but the line itself and the surface, and then select perpendicular. Now this line is perpendicular to this surface. So no matter where I move it, you can see that it remains perpendicular to. Sometimes this will happen, or the end line will flip. So depending on where you need it, do you need it outside or inside? Sometimes it doesn't matter. But there it is. It's perpendicular to that surface, no matter where I put that point. So sometimes you may need that. So, and then same thing. You can just get this line. This is in case maybe the surface is very organic or something. You just need a perpendicular line off of that. Here it's very circular, so you can basically go off of the center origin, but it may not be perfectly circular. So I'm going to get this, get out of my sketch here. Start a new reference plane on that plane. And let's say that. So like we used this method a lot when we're doing the vents for on the jacuzzi. Actually, the jets, not the vents, the jets on the jacuzzi models, so that they were always perpendicular to anywhere on the surface of that seat. So it just depends on what your uses are for this, because they had to be perpendicular. They couldn't be any distortion to the shape of that of those that kind of be somewhat elliptical shapes. But there you go. So that's how you create a plane and a line perpendicular to anywhere on the surface. Okay. Go back to the trims. So as I created some of these, let's see, I'll keep going down. After a couple of these trims, so just a hole for the ear, rear vents, I thickened this surface. So, all this was knit, these 3 elements here, actually 4, they're all knit. So I was able to thicken all this all at once. So that's the shell. Basically, now it's now there's a thickness to it. And I know this goes all the way to the end, but you know, we can take care of that later. And so there's a thickness to this, let's say, polycarbonate helmet. A couple of fillets to the outside edges to just make them a little more smooth. Pretty generous fillets. And then I started thinking about the padding on the inside. So you remember to always use your surfaces that you already have. You know, you don't have to build again. And in this case, it was just another offset, right? So I just grabbed these two faces, went to surfaces and said offset surface. And in this case, I offset it pretty generously, basically the distance of the padding, you know, that whatever that distance is. In this case, it was 0.67 inch. So a little bit more than half an inch of padding. So that's going to be the start of my padding surface. And obviously this follows the shape exactly of the helmet, right? Because I just did an offset surface. So then from there, I wanted this kind of the star shape up on top. So I created that as a sketch. There it is. And I just did half of these spikes here from the top. So this is getting projected downward to actually I didn't trim it yet because I need this surface for two different padding areas. So what I did was I created a split line so that this sketch that I had down here split the surface that I offset. So it creates a split line. So it's still a one singular, if I look at my bodies, all this offset is still one singular surface. It just has a split face here because of this sketch. So that's what this split line is. And then I created another surface offset of just this face, just to create basically a copy of it. So I have this surface up here. Actually, it wasn't the bottom part. It was the top split area. So I selected each one of these faces, all of these guys here, and did another offset because I wanted basically a copy of it. And then what I did was I trimmed this lower area because I didn't want it to continue on here, and I wanted to, I think I actually wanted to trim, let me see the before and after. Oh, that was just this area. I wanted to trim out the area of the ear padding as it goes, the helmet goes over your ear to create a little bit of a space for your ear. And then I created this top shape here for this to separate, you know, so I have this lower padding area and then this upper padding area. So this upper one is, remember, that's the copy of it. And this lower one is just a trim out. And then I thickened the top part. And I was having trouble, you know, you may run across this. I was having trouble mirroring this and having them come together because of a zero sum surface. So sometimes you may maybe get that problem. In this case, what I did was I deleted the middle face of these. I added some fillets to the interior corners to smooth those out. And then I mirrored it. So that's the top piece there. And in that mirror, I think I selected knit surfaces. So because this is a surface, at the same time you mirror this, if you have this checked, it will also knit both of those surfaces together to create one, one body again. Okay, so there's the top padding, and now the lower one. Let me see, was that the lower one? Let me see. Oh no, this thicken was for creating a solid out of this surface. because when I mirrored it, it was still just a knit surface. So I can see here that this is a knit surface. It's not a solid yet. To get it into a solid, remember one of the tools you can use is the thicken tool. And if this set of surfaces is completely knit and all enclosed, this checkbox will come up, create solid from an enclosed volume. So if that's checked, it will create a solid out of this. So now if I look at my folder, you can see that there's this solid element. And then, you know, you can do other things like shell or whatever it is that you may want to do. Maybe 3D print this possibly. But now that it's a solid, you can do that. I added some fillets to the overall edges. Basically all of these edges here, inside and outside, for that padding. And I'll upload this model as well. So, okay, so these two, let's see. Oh, one trick here. Let me show you one trick that I did. Sometimes this works, sometimes this doesn't. I'll go back before these two delete faces. And let me clean this up here, and I'll isolate this one body. Isolate, let's see here. Okay, so I'm isolating just this one body. So you see how this, so I added these fillets. So each one of these fillets, just a regular fillet, each one of these fillets is tangent to the face, to these faces that connect it, right? So I have a tangent reference. Basically what I want to do, or my goal here was, see how this entire top surface is made up of multiple faces? Sometimes there's one, sometimes if it's in the middle, it's halved. But I wanted to make one singular face out of these multiple faces. So what'll work sometimes is using the delete face tool. Something's useful, and it's more useful when you do have fillets involved here, because you have something to go tangent off of. It has a reference for that. So if I go down here to delete face, see how this worked well. So all of those faces are selected, all of these multiple faces, all of these that were up here were selected. And then the option is not just delete, but delete and fill. And with the addition of tangent fill. So what it'll do is it'll look at the edges that are connected to it, and it'll go tangent off of those edges. So the good thing here is that there's a tangent edge all the way around this, the top edge here. So it was very easy for this, for this top form to be created and replaced. Replace all of these multiple faces with just one face. And if I look at this, so now I select one singular face. If I select face curves, it's a very clean face there. It's a, you want, very clean grid as it goes across the top. And there's no pinching in the middle, there's no pinching anywhere along the edge, and it's, a clean, very clean surface. I want to do the same thing to the bottom. It also has a tangent edge because of all the fillets. So when I roll down below there, same thing, one singular face now. If I look at my face curves, very clean as well. So that's a trick to, help combine multiple faces into one. It doesn't work all the time. Sometimes you get some weird shape, but as long as you have a tangent edge, you can use that to your advantage for that. Okay, so that's just a delete face tool with delete and fill and tangent fill checked on. Okay. Exit the isolate. continue on with this lower area. So here I just created a bigger trim around the vents, right? I didn't want just a singular vent here. So thicken. And the next thing that I did here was a draft angle. So notice that the trim caused this, well, it was a combination of both the trim, which is this edge, basically this edge here for the ear, and then the thicken created, you know, these faces, right? That was just a simple thicken. And my goal here was for this draft, was to create a little bit more of an angle as it goes, you know, to the outside. I wanted a little bit more of just an angle kind of going in, so to create a little bit more space here. So instead of, you know, trying to do like a weird cut or something, you can use the draft tool for that. And notice that now with the draft tool on, see how it created this draft, basically a draft angle, a little bit more space. And so now it angles in just in this area. And if I look at the selection, I was able to use the same plane that I used to create this sketch, this circle. I use this plane as the neutral plane for the draft angle. Remember, when you select a neutral plane for your draft angle, you know, that's kind of like your starting flat point for the draft. And then anything beyond that gets either drafted inward or outward, however you choose to do it. So in this case, I selected the reverse direction. So it's going to draft in this direction. And then you just tell it how much you want to draft. So in this case, it was 10 degrees. So these surfaces, all of these faces, are 10 degrees from this plane that's out here. That's perpendicular to this face. So it's a helpful way to just get a quick, you know, angle to some surfaces, especially if you have a plane already applied. So you just have to select what faces you want to draft. In this case, it was just these three. So you click OK, and you can see those kind of going back out. So it's a little bit more of a opening there. From then on, it was just finishing this off with some fillets. So some fillets there, some fillets in here. I did the same delete face technique for the inside face here and mirrored it. I was able to knit it at the same time. And then thicken. Hit isolate on this. So there's the padding. So kind of a complex shape, but really not so much, because I already have those surfaces existing, right? I mean, I already had this, basically the inside of the helmet is this surface here. And then it was a matter of just trimming it, thickening it, adding some fillets in certain areas. In this case, you know, here, up here, and on the inside of this, ventilation area. Mirroring it and knitting it. Okay, so always use what's already there. It goes much faster that way. All right, so there's the interior padding. This is where I mirrored the top, the shell, basically the shell of the helmet. Combined both of these halves. Here I also mirrored this piece, the padding on the edge. And then the last thing here was a hole for this rivet piece. So this is where the strap is anchored. And I don't have that helmet, so maybe Ansel can shed some light on exactly how it's anchored. But this, I just wanted a hole for that particular piece. And I was looking at the reference pictures. You can see there's this, you know, this top cap of what possibly could be a kind of a rivet, or two-part, you know, like a PEMSERT kind of thing.
Yeah, there's a little rivet, and then there's like a leather washer on the inside.
I see. Okay. Okay. Cool. Cool. Yeah. And I don't know if is there padding behind it? I'm not sure if there's. Okay, there's no shots of the inside.
Not exactly on the rivet. I think you can still see the exposed rivet. It comes when you buy it. It has like a handful of pads in different sizes, so you can get a better fit.
Oh, interesting. Okay. Cool. Thank you. So yeah, so in this case, you know, you can choose like what, you know, what padding arrangement you want, right? So and then in your case, in the way it translates to your model is that you can trim this up in a number of different ways. You know, that's kind of like the equivalent to that, right? You can just make different strips. The location of these, you know, of these paddings, you know, you can kind of just go crazy with the arrangement of these, and all with the trimming tool. Okay, so here I just put a placeholder for this hole in this case. All right, so I think at this point I was ready to bring this into an assembly actually. So I just brought this model into an assembly. So I'm going to hit save, and I'll show you where I got this this rivet. So here I just brought it into an assembly, just dragged it over. Remember the first thing that you bring into an assembly, I know this is stuff from like week 1 to week 2, I think even week 3. Remember the first thing is the first item is fixed. So you would have to set it to float. Here it's here. You can set it to fix here again, but it comes in fixed. And then you set it to float when you bring it into an assembly. Okay, so then here's this rivet piece, and let me open this up so you can see it. I'll show you where I got it. So there's the two pieces. Actually, there's two pieces to this. So this is the kind of stuff that's, you know, the off-the-shelf parts that you don't have to model. In this case, I got it from McMaster-Carr, and McMaster-Carr is a great resource for this. Let's see, I think I have it in, I'm not sure where. Yeah, here we go. So you go to McMaster-Carr, and usually I go here before I go to like you know, GrabCAD and all that stuff, because this is like standard stuff. This is like their you know, library of actual parts, and they get their models, you know, from the manufacturer. Most of the time now, which is great, is that there are actual SolidWorks parts, you know, with features, which is great. You can look at this part. Before, they used to be just like dumb models, you know, just like parametric, not even parametric, parasolid, I should say, parasolid models or IGES models or something. It was just a model and you couldn't do anything with it. Now you can see the feature tree. You know, you see the you know, the helix spirals and all of that stuff for, you know, for multiple parts. And so you can see how it's, so you kind of get a clue as to how stuff is made till you just roll back on the features. But the way you get these models is, let me go back here. Let's see, did this not? Okay, so when you go into McMaster-Carr, you get all of this, right? You get just thousands of stuff. It's maybe some of you have ordered from McMaster-Carr. Find just about anything in there. Your find tool, do a search. In this case, I'll just type in rivet. Whoops. So here's rivets. So different types of rivets. Regular rivets here, rivets fasten 2 or more pieces of material between 2 heads, rivet studs, rivet nuts, screws and bolts. I think I went into the screws and bolts area. And metal press fit, low profile binding, barrels and caps. So I'm going to click on that one. And you can see the multiple sizes. So here's 3/8, half, 5/8, and all these serial numbers that are associated with that. So you pick one. Here I picked the smallest one, the 3/8, and I clicked on the serial number. So when you click on the serial number, you get it expanded. You can say how much you want to order and all that stuff. But right in here, it's a little hidden, you know, this where it says little CAD logo. It says product detail. You click on that, And you get a drafting of it. You get an orthographic of it. And then up here in the top corner, top right of this area, it says 3D SolidWorks. 3D SolidWorks, different options. You know, you can get an IGES, like I said, maybe a PDF of this drawing, 2D drawing, a step file, you know, just depending on what you want. So obviously, you know, SolidWorks is probably the easiest thing to get or to work with. And I click on save, and it basically just downloads this model. You know, I don't even think it's zipped up or anything. It's just a model, because it's just very small files. It doesn't really need to be zipped. So you hit save, it downloads it, and you can it instantly just pops up. You know, you just double click it, comes up in SolidWorks, and there you have it. A pretty detailed model of whatever hardware you need for your product. And you know, don't be afraid to use this stuff, especially if it's off the shelf stuff. You know, you don't have to model every single little piece. You know, you can use this as a reference for your model. And you'll be doing all this all the time, you know, at work. You know, when you're a professional, you'll get models given to you. You'll have to search for some of this stuff. You may even have to specify what rivets or screws and all that stuff you need. And you know, there's tons of stuff. I mean, there's, you know, just in terms of screws, you know, let's say, you know, you're specifying a super corrosion resistant, you know, stainless steel for binding, you know, hex head stuff, you know, flathead hex heads, you know, all that, you know, the cool stuff, you know, for furniture and all that. And it kind of gets you educated on the hardware as well, because you kind of get educated on the cost of some of this stuff, because some of these screws can get, you know, fairly expensive, because they're more, you know, just hard to either make or just source. You know, a sense of the sizing, and how do you communicate with engineers or the vendors that are going to be making this, in terms of maybe where they can get it or the exact size. And you're also able to verify it in your own model, you know, making sure that it's not so big, making sure that you make allowances for wall thicknesses, all that stuff. You know, it's all the necessary stuff to get stuff made. So I was looking here, look at the serial number, open it up, go to product detail, and I think especially for hardware and stuff like this, I think, you know, like 90% of these hardware items have a model associated with it. So you hit save, and then right from the browser, you usually just double click it. It opens up, so it's super fast. I mean, here's a model for that, you know. So maybe this is the hardware you need for this, you know, this kind of this Torx head binding screw there. So it's got two ends. One end looks like it gets press fitted into the metal so that it doesn't turn. And then this is the actual, you know, the screw area there. Okay, so it's a good place to start off and to source all this stuff. And it makes your models look that much more professional too, because you got these real screw heads on your, you know, on your model, as opposed to maybe just a little cylinder top or something. Okay, so that's a way to get that stuff in. Okay, so that's how I got this one. You know, the next thing is mating those items. So in this case, what I did was let's see, go into, I'm going to hide this. So in this case, what I did was I selected this cylinder. I went to the same place where you get your, you know, reference geometry and make planes. In this case, what I did was I made an axis. And by making an axis, let's see, there it is. There's the axis there. I just made an axis go right through that, you know, by selecting this cylinder wall, the axis is made right in the center of that. So I need that to mate it to the, you know, to the screw that, or the, in this case, the rivet head there. So I created an axis also on the rivet model, just to make sure that I have an axis there. And then I just mated the two. I just mated both of those axes so that they match up. So no matter, even if I change the location of that hole, later on that rivet's just going to follow that because it's SolidWorks and it just follows that stuff. One thing I didn't make was the distance out from that. I mean, I could do that. I could add a plane to that, but I just wanted to quickly just place that element in there. And then another thing I did was also hide this this back part. I didn't need this back part here, so I just hid it from the model. All I needed was the head part here. And then I just mirrored it. Just so you know too, under assembly, the mirror is a little bit hidden. It's not evident in one of these tools here. It's kind of hidden inside of the linear component pattern. There's several of them. There's different ways to pattern. And then mirror components is way at the bottom of this. So it's a little bit kind of in an obscure place, but you can also, by knowing how to do the search and then just dragging things out, you can see that I added it here already as well. So you can add it to your, your toolbar there. So let's see, I already have it in here, so I'm just going to remove it. So you hold down the option to remove it from something from there. All right, so this is where I stopped basically. So there's the model. I just added this rivet, and my plan was to do the strap right in here, in this program, and we can start with a simple line. In this case, what I did was I inserted a new part into this assembly, and notice that I saved it. So right now this part is completely empty. There's no geometry, there's no sketches to this this new part at all. And let's see here. So what I did was I hit new part. So it's a part. You save it. So in this case, I'm going to say right before, and I think we did this in week 3. Should be a video to this as well. So I'm going to hit save as. Let's say just call this helmet strap. We'll call this helmet strap B. Hit save. I'm going to tile this, and here is, I'm going to close some of this stuff out. And I don't need this one. Okay, here's helmet strap B. Here's this document. And I want to put it inside of the assembly. So I just drag it in here. Now that it's in here, there's helmet strap B, and it's not mated. So let me show, I'm going to show the plane so you can kind of see both of them in action here. You can kind of see its relative location to this. So here's my empty part, and there's, obviously there's nothing in here yet. So the first thing I do is just mate, the front plane with the front plane of the assembly, and right with right, top with top, just so that it's right in the middle. And again, this, I think, something I did in week, I think 2 or 3. I think it was week 3. Hit OK, and now right plane. There's a lot of planes in here, so I just want to make sure I hit the right plane of the assembly. So I center it first just to make sure that my part is in the middle. So there it is in the middle now. Now I know that it's in the middle. And then I can start modeling it. So I'm going to hide B and just work with the original one. Actually, I want to delete B. So with the strap, and I'll just do a simple strap here. You remember that you do have to be in edit mode. So select the part, go into edit part. So everything else goes transparent, and you may recall this now from week 3 or so. This is blue. We can set a plane to start sketching off of, in this case, maybe the right plane. And I'm going to just go and make, just kind of offset from this guy. So I'll just say okay here. Just so I made a new plane. And this is where I'm going to actually draw the path of the strap. So, and there may be two, I'm not sure how you want to, maybe create this element. Let's see here. So there's my plane, and I'll just make two just so we're kind of familiar with what we're doing here. So I'll start here and maybe end here. So this is a spline. So here are my handles. So let's say that's going to be the strap path. Okay, I'll do another one. And I want to reference the previous one. Another spline, so I'll get close to this. And so just two lines there. Maybe this one has a little bit more shape to it. Okay. And this could be also a 3D, this could be a 3D sketch too. This, I just made a 2D sketch, but your choice on this as well, like exactly what you need to happen here. Okay, so now I'm going to make a plane at the end of these elements here. So let's see, I'm going to make, actually I'm not going to make a sketch yet. So I'm going to get out of sketch, have to make a plane first. So I'm going to select one of these, go to features, make a plane. So with this spline selected and the end of it selected as well, I'm able to make a plane at the end of that spline. So now with a plane there, I can make a sketch that's going to be the profile for this, because most likely there's going to be a custom profile to this. And so I'm going to go to sketch, and here I'll just make a slot, like a center. I'll just make a center slot. Let's do that. So that's going to be my profile. And then the rest is just, just making a, it could be a solid sweep, depending on, where you are with your model, both of those elements, there it is, that's this particular strap. And, we can UV map this later on in KeyShot so that, if there is a texture here, it gets nicely placed. You may want to fill it to the end of this to create a, let's see, 0.05. And there we go. So, I'm going to try to see if I think I can transfer one sketch and kind of make it jump to the other one, but let me see here. Yeah, I don't think it'll let me. Because I want to use a common profile for this. Like if I change one, it'll change the other ones as well. I don't think it's going to let me. Because it's not perpendicular to this path. So what I'll do is I'll go to edit this sketch for this profile. And what I'll do is I'm going to make a block out of it. So I'll call this, Well, let me. Yeah, it's not gonna let me name it. I think it'll let me name it after the fact here. So I'll just set this as a block. But the cool thing is that you can save these blocks. Basically, this is kind of like a group in Illustrator. And in this case, what I'm going to do is I'm going to save this block. So this profile is going to get saved. I'll say save block. So I'll call this strap profile. I'll just call this maybe week 12. And I'm going to save it into my folder week 12. And this is a special file too. See how it's this SLD BLK. All right, so there we go. I think the edge got changed as well, so I have to redo the fillet. Okay, so now I'm going to make a new plane at the end of this spline. The cool thing is that if you change the spline, this will change as well. The plane will go with it, so it's all you know, take advantage of what's the parametrics in SolidWorks. So new plane, end of that point there. There we go. So now there's a plane at the end of that spline. Start a new sketch. And this is where I'll, let's see, bring in that new block here. Oh, there go the two hawks there. Okay, so where are my, there we go, there's blocks. And I'm going to insert block. I'm going to go to browse block. And I'm going to go to where I saved it. Week 12. There it is. Open and here. Just want to get close to where it's supposed to be. There's a center of the block here, and I'm just going to make a relation, coincident relation to it. So that way it's the exact same thing that you have in another sketch. You place it in a new sketch. You don't have to keep making these, because it could be the same profile for multiple straps or something. Okay, so there we go. Same thing. So swept surface, there's my profile, there's my path, and then there you go. So right now this kind of rigid looking, but because it's a 2D sketch, but you can do a 3D sketch to make it a little more flowing, or however you want to do it. But even just by having a spline, it's kind of flowing already. One thing about the sweep too is that you can add a twist to it if you need to. If you go to options, see it has this profile twist. You can specify a twist value. Let's say, where it ends. See how it's not quite, parallel to the originating profile. See how it's, you want it a little bit more twisted at the end. Here, I'm going to change the direction of the twist at about, let's say 18 degrees or so that it ends pretty close to, actually I'm going to maybe go back up a little bit, maybe 20 degrees. So as it's traveling along its path, it's also twisting at the same time. So that'll add a little bit more of, authenticity, I guess, to the way the strap is supposed to get swept. I'll do the same thing on the other one. So go to options, specify twist value, look at it from the top view. In this case, you know, let's try 20 as well. Maybe a little bit more on that one. And also that's why, so that it's not like punching through the, you know, the material like I think how it is now. So I'm gonna do a little bit more of a twist. And there we go. So pretty close there. All right, so there's the twist value on both of those. So there you go. So there's the strap added to that as a separate part. And now we can, you know, you can add more features to this. You can add more holes to the strap. You know, maybe some, if it's leather, you can add the, you know, the little holes that are running along the edge here. What else? I'm going to see what else we can add. Maybe, oh yeah, the buckles. You know, let's add a buckle here. Let's see if McMaster Carr has any buckles. So, and it looks like they do. So let's see if they have models for these. Cinching strap. So that, I think that might be something that we need. So there's a serial number. So let's just try one of these kind of basic ones here. This kind of outdoor, let's see, feed through plastic buckle. Product details. It doesn't look like they have a CAD. So yeah, like not everything has a CAD model associated. So this might be someplace where I go to maybe grab CAD for something like this. But you know, you can kind of keep looking to see maybe one of these has a CAD model. Sometimes they just get them from the manufacturer, sometimes not. Product detail. I mean, it does have some product detail, but it just kind of gets into the dimensions of it, not necessarily detailed model. Let's put a really beefy ratchet on it. So let's see if they have it. No, too bad. That would look kind of cool. Let's see. I wonder if anything else. No. Any of these guys. Yeah, usually you'll see a little CAD symbol. Little 3D or a little crosshair there. So not on these necessarily. Cam buckles. Yeah, this one does have a CAD. So SolidWorks, let's just do this one. So save. And here it is. Kind of an okay model. This, I don't like this little fillet, the way it looks like it got trimmed after it got filleted. Not the way I would do it, but you know, if you just need a quick model, maybe for reference, you just throw it in here. Go back to my assembly. Oh, I'm gonna tile these guys. So here's my assembly. Drag it in. And usually I see like, okay, what mate can I place, or what geometry do I have here that I can mate with any element of this, you know, of this piece here. You know, maybe it's this plane, you know, with one of these planes. Let's say the right plane. So if I make both of these, and I would have to flip it in this case. And it is kind of twisted, but you know, we can always fix that. I'm going to put it more like in place, and I'll scale the bodies of these two so that it's more matching. And next thing might be maybe a line from here to that one, or and sometimes it's just not as clear cut, you know, but that's okay. You know, we maybe to get by with something, sometimes not. So So they are parallel. Let's see, how about these two? No, let's see, what else can let's see what else I can select. Yeah, sometimes you may just want to eyeball these together. Okay. Okay, let's see what else see what else I can select to make basically to make these two turn. Select this edge. Made it maybe with the top edge here. And yeah, it's not going to that. So let's see what else. Okay, so it's on that plane, and let's see, I can bring it back slightly. No, I might have to add some geometry to this piece. So you can edit. So I'm going to edit the part. Let's see, I'm going to make out of two intersecting planes. Maybe these two intersecting planes. No, actually, I'm going to make the top one and the front. So from those two intersecting planes, I'm going to make an axis. So I have an axis going across there. Okay, so that's the middle sort of this piece. And what else can I do? I'm going to make a sketch on the right. I'll just put a simple, I'm just going to put a point. And what else? So I'm just kind of preparing it for this. So, and also I'll select this point. Just make sure that it's visible. There we go. So there's that, the spline that I made. And I'll select that point. And I'll make them coincident, but I don't know. I think there might be something else interfering with it. So if two mates are interfering, you may get this message. So add this mate and break other mates to satisfy this one that we're adding, or add this mate and over-define the assembly. Usually I hit this first one, so it breaks the other one and adds this mate. And so it is along this point. So now it's along this point, but it's not in the right location. So I'm going to have to, let's see, I think I have to drop this one. Let's see what else I can. Yeah, sometimes there's just like an interference with other things. So now I'm able to drag it. So let's see how far I can go before it. So I think in this case, I'll just eyeball it. So the point that is on this buckle is on the spline now. So it's going to follow the spline. And then it's just a matter of dragging it out. So, you know, sometimes we have to eyeball it. Sometimes we have to add more geometry to it. I'm also, looks like I'm going to have to scale it too. So if I go into edit part, I'm going to get both of these bodies, go to features and scale. So uniform scaling, I don't have a coordinate system, so I'll just try centroid. Actually, I'm going to try its own origin. And I'll do a 0.5, so half. That looks, yeah, that looks about right. Half. Hit OK. So I'm going to finish editing it. But you can continue on with however many additional geometries or elements you may need to to make this, just place it in the right location and all that. All right, so you may have to put additional planes or something to help reference the mates for this. But that's how you bring in a model. You scale it, mate it to the location, and then manipulate the rotation and all that. Okay. So I think one last thing may be let's say I'm trying to think like what would be a good thing to place here. Maybe the holes, possibly, like a series of holes that go along this strap. Usually I place one hole and then just repeat it on a path. So good thing is that I do have a path to begin with. And let's see, I can go into this helmet strap model by itself just so I don't have any interruptions with some of the other things. So I'm going to hit open part. So there it is. And let's say I want to put the holes on this side here. And let's see. So first of all, let's see how I place these holes here. And let's see, I think I'll go off of this. So I'm going to make a sketch on this plane because that's what where this spline is located. So just a simple construction line. I'm going to make it this construction line perpendicular to the spline. Hit OK, and then at the end of this construction line, put a reference plane, and that's where that's where the hole is going to go. So I'll make a sketch. There's a circle. And since this is a solid, it's just going to be an extrude cut. All the way through that. Okay, so there's the first hole there. Okay, so now I'm going to do I think a curve-driven pattern in this case. So let's see, a pattern direction. So let's see, I think I might have to establish a sketch for a direction. Actually, not in this case. So the direction itself is the spline. So notice, see how it's following the spline. Now it's just a matter of the spacing and the direction as well. So right now they follow the original direction of the cut, but I want to follow the direction of the surface. Okay, so face normal. Let's see, I'm going to go tangent to curve. I think that you might get away with tangent to curve, but let's see, I don't want to offset the curve. I think that was fine. That one looks pretty good. So that's a way to copy something, on a curve. So if you do need that on the strap, okay. And that's a curve-driven pattern. So as long as you have a curve and something in this case, something to seed, in this case, the actual cut itself, you can follow that along some, a little bit more of a complex curve. All right, so I'll save that, go back to my assembly. And like, you know, I'm going to save all of these elements, you know, so you can pretty quickly get a you know, pretty decent shape on, you know, for your helmet and the strap and the pads and all those things. And the good thing is that all of this stuff is, you know, it's in an assembly. So once you get it into KeyShot, you can explode these out and be able to, you know, create all these nice exploded views and rotations and all that stuff, any kind of movements for all this. Okay. Okay, I'm going to stop the recording for